Western script, Eastern reality. This is the algorithm. Rewrite the rules. January 3rd, 2026, 0600 GMT. The Eastern algorithm detected a massive tremor in the legal spectrum of the Western Hemisphere. U.S. Special Forces executed Operation Absolute Resolve, forcibly extracting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro from Caracas. While mainstream media debates human rights and sovereignty, the algorithm focuses on a different set of metrics. The real-time throughput of Venezuelan heavy oil settled in Eastern local currencies surged by 300% in the last 24 hours.
Listen, don't just look at the surface. Most people think the U.S. is showing strength by breaking into someone's house and dragging them out. But what I see is desperation. Think about it. If the U.S. dollar still had its old bite, Washington would just hit enter on a keyboard, sanction you, block your bank accounts, and your country would collapse on its own. But now, sanctions have become waste paper.
According to the physical audit report, the forced peg of the U.S. dollar to oil suffered an irreversible fracture in late 2025. Venezuela, holding one of the world's largest oil reserves, has completely abandoned the dollar and embraced the Eastern settlement system. For the U.S., this isn't a diplomatic issue, it's a systemic short circuit.
Exactly. This is physical efficiency, defeating financial magic. The U.S. realized it lost the trade war, the tech war, and even the financial war against the Eastern productivity algorithm. Now, they only have one card left: brute force. Kidnapping Maduro is the final scream of a dying empire. If my money can't buy your oil, I'll just take your body.
The algorithm determines that when a credit system must rely on physical abduction to maintain its resource input, the system's physical lifespan has entered its final countdown. The U.S. filter has shattered, exposing a primitive terminal predatory instinct. The Eastern algorithm is currently performing a negative calibration of global political credit ratings. Before January 3rd, 2026, U.S. global influence was built on the 2D virtual framework, known as the rules-based international order. However, the moment Delta Force breached the presidential palace in Caracas and forced Nicolas Maduro onto a flight to New York, that framework underwent a catastrophic formatting.
Look, the mask is completely off now. In the past, when the U.S. wanted regime change, they'd find some proxies, fund an opposition, and make it look like the will of the people. Now, President Trump just comes out and says, "We took him and we're running Venezuela." This pivot from beacon of liberty to global bounty hunter happened so fast the world is still in shock.
The algorithm is monitoring a flight coefficient of global South assets out of US-controlled domains. When a sitting head of state can be abducted across borders and put on trial over disputed criminal charges, every leader outside the US alliance reaches the same audit conclusion. The law has expired. Physical power is the only metric that remains.
Exactly. On the surface, the U.S. thinks they won because they now control the faucets of Venezuelan heavy oil. But they just lost their whole card. Think about it. Leaders in Africa, Southeast Asia, even in Europe are watching the U.S. bypass the UN and international law to snatch a president. Who's going to trust their assets or their future to a dealer who can go rogue at any second? This zeroing of trust is the real prologue to the collapse of the dollar.
The Eastern algorithm is modeling a new concept, the physical safety zone. Data suggests that as the US reverts to primitive violence, global capital is accelerating towards systems that respect sovereignty and emphasize physical efficiency over political prosecution. Every time Washington kidnaps a Maduro, it effectively pushes 10 more allies into the East's atomic settlement zone.
This is the terminal logic of hegemony. The US is acting like a red-eyed gambler who's lost it all. He doesn't care about the rules of the casino anymore. He just wants to grab every chip, petroleum resource on the table, and run. But he forgets one thing. Once you flip the table, you lose the right to be the house.
While the Western Hemisphere descends into the chaos of physical abductions, the Eastern algorithm is executing a silent mission known as Physical Anchor. Data shows that the East has issued no aggressive military response to the Venezuelan incident. Instead, data throughput across Eastern managed ports, power grids, and automated mining zones in the global South is expanding at a rate of 15% per day.
This is the difference between a grandmaster and a street thug. The US is busy kidnapping leaders, orchestrating coups, and threatening sanctions, all of which are forms of 2D violence. You snatched Maduro, but does that mean you can restart the oil wells? Does that mean you can repair the refineries? The technological hollowing out of the US means they've forgotten how to do anything except pull a trigger. Meanwhile, what is the East doing? The East is laying tracks.
The algorithm compares two data sets. The US has deployed 20,000 special forces to Venezuela in an attempt to seize resources through force. Simultaneously, the East has completed the delivery of 5 modular nuclear power plants across Central Asia and the Middle East. The US is disrupting the stability of the supply chain, while the East is becoming the supply chain itself.
This is the silent siege. The East doesn't need to kidnap anyone. They just need to build the high-speed rail to your doorstep, install 5G base stations in your mining districts, and deliver stable electricity to your factories. When the world realizes the US only brings war and abduction, while the East brings stability and capacity, you don't need to check the news to know who the real leader is. You just check if the lights in your house are on.
According to the 2026 physical audit model, US violence is effectively clearing the field for the East. Every time Washington destroys diplomatic trust in a region, the physical permission of that region automatically migrates toward the East. In a chaotic world, the system capable of providing atomic-level stability becomes the final safe haven.
Simply put, the US is using suicidal methods to drive customers away. They think they've seized Venezuela's oil, but in reality, they've terrified every resource-rich nation on Earth into sprinting toward the East's atomic settlement zone. The Eastern algorithm doesn't even have to lift a finger. It just has to wait at the finish line to collect the goods.
The algorithm enters its final deduction. The abduction on January 3, 2026 will be recorded in history as the last domino to fall for credit hegemony. Data confirms that when a superpower begins replacing value attraction with physical restraint, its currency system has lost its final physical support. The US dollar is no longer a credit instrument. It has become a ransom note.
Remember this. You can't eat a derivative, and you can't heat your house with a strong buy rating. By kidnapping Maduro, the US is effectively admitting to the world that it can no longer afford to play the financial game. It is now dragging the world into a bottomless resource war. But here's the problem. Once you flip the table, who's going to keep playing with you?
Projections indicate that within the next 12 months, the world will witness the largest migration of physical assets in history. Resource-rich nations, fearing the unpredictable tantrums of the US, will accelerate the movement of their atomic resources, energy, minerals, grain, into the physical safety zones protected by the Eastern algorithm. The US gained a president, but it lost the planet.
This is the truth of 2026. Violence is the final testament of the powerless. When you see the US deploying special forces just to snatch oil, you should know that the dollar digits in your bank account have already entered the countdown to formatting.
We are standing on the edge of the largest physical formatting in human civilization. If you are still listening to Western media talk about geopolitical wins and losses, you are already lagging by an entire dimension. To survive the audit of 2026, you don't need news. You need root access.
If you feel our Eastern algorithm perspective today helped you see the true cards behind this abduction, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this truth with friends who are still clinging to illusions of the old world.
Subscribe to Eastern Perspective for real-time access to the 2026 Global Physical Audit.
The U.S. is out of options. What will they do next? In our next episode, we'll analyze why they are trying to use waste paper to buy the icebergs of Greenland. We'll see you in the next one.